organisations wish to make Amazon pay, and we're looking at not just here in the UK but globally with this big corporate giant that workers should be paid fairly. They should have the rights and respects to be able to join a union, and also more importantly, looking at Amazon's responsibility that they should be prepared to pay their fair share of taxes, but also more importantly, is for them to commit to real environmental sustainability. And I know from where I work and what I've heard from the activists, they're woefully inept and probably way down at the bottom of the ladder on what they claim they deliver, to which we know what they don't. So that's kind of overviewing the objectives. We're galvanizing workers across all walks of life. And also, I do believe there is a definite positive role for us to be linking up with activists, which I'll mention a bit later when we get down to the branch side of it. So what's happening now then? Coventry's trying to get its third round of strike waves going. It's a close rung thing because they have such a big number of members to try and get them galvanized into it. We have another new site, which is a robotic site in Minworth, which has only just opened up. And because a good portion of our members transferred over there, we've now having them coming out and strike within less than a couple of months of the site being opened. And it's a kind of a salute to our departing manager, who's now gone across there to manage, that we're letting him know that we're still here. And hopefully, if we can get our actions together in Coventry, it will be 2 sites that will be protesting shortly, which will be an amazing achievement. So we should know by the 25th of January if Coventry can join that strike again. It's been a hard uphill slog because technically we have a bigger number to deal with, and the education process of getting migrant workers to understand the relevance and significance of the responsibilities to come forward for strike action. So that's what we're doing at present. So what's happened? Well, we've managed to get a number of pay rises out of them. We've pressurised them and they've conceded that, and that pay rise has been across the UK, across all Amazon sites. And although we have achieved the pay rise with them, we're still behind in real terms compared to 2018. We are still losing money. I'm not going to go into the figures too much, but without the actions that we've taken, we would have got nowhere with what we've done. So last year was quite a significant turning point in that Darren, who's not here today, was able to forge some links with a gentleman called Rainer von Verdi, which is a German union. And we know our European colleagues for 10 years have been slogging away over there. We met up in Manchester also under the Union Global banner. And it was at that point, it became more of a realization that we need to have a collaboration with all the campaigning groups, not just the unions, but the activists and so on, and even community involvement for the next step to galvanize people in pursuing Amazon to do what we think should be done as the right thing. So from that meeting last year, myself and Tom Rigsby, who's an education officer, went across to meet our German counterparts in Berlin. We also met up with some Polish unions. We've also had talks with Italian, Spanish. It's quite a big list of organizations and countries that we've been trying to get together. And we now have a grouping on our WhatsApp group where we feed back information about what's going on in the member state countries. So it's quite a lot of organizations involved, union-wise. But the bigger picture for those up on the Union Global stage, also Global Justice, another lot of the other companies, sorry, the other groups that I don't have to hand, but are activists in this field, we're looking to coordinate action. And as of the 24th of November just gone, it was decided to make that a key date in that month for a symbolic gesture spread across, I believe it's 35 countries and 135 organizations with connections to Amazon's. That's including the drivers, the logistical teams, the warehouses, the pick centers, that we want to show Amazon that this year we're in now, we're looking to be more coordinated in our efforts. So if we strike in Coventry, it's not just a case we striking for Coventry, but we want to do it so it interrupts their global supply chain, or they get the adverse publicity, which we think that Amazon should get to highlight their exploitative process. So I believe from the meetings that we've had and the talks with these organizations, that we're now looking to forge ahead as a starting point to try and get our efforts working together. Um, Now, I mentioned the unions there because it was a union involvement that started it, but I also mentioned that my talks really started, I believe, in London when we won the climate group. So sorry, I can't remember the name, but I've been doing that many, I sometimes lose track. And it was from that particular climate group, it helped spread the name for the Amazon workers and their cause. We came late to the fight and we had all the attention on us. And more importantly, because we're from the private sector doing something unheard of, um, we think we got sufficient global attention to highlight the plight of the exploitation process with Amazon. I also know from having attended the Union Global do that a lot of countries are not happy with Amazon's environmental credentials, what appears to be abuse of their position and their dominance to really bring a detrimental process to bear. We know from the site I work at that there's a humongous amount of waste on a regular, well, I could say daily, on a regular process with Amazon. They generate so much tonnage of waste, it's obscene. It's been highlighted in the past. We know they were doing landfills. We don't know what they're doing now, but there's other ways they could show their green credentials, which they're failing. And this is all having a detrimental process on the planet, not just on the planet, but also on the workers who are involved in this high productivity volume of consumerism, which allows Amazon to exploit its workers. So we expect this year, sorry about the heat, I'm not long eaten, I've got a bit of a cold coming out of me. So we expect this year, we're looking with the help of the GMB to be able to petition the Labour government. I had the pleasure of talking to Sir Keir Starmer at our GMB conference in Brighton. And one of the questions put to him was the fact that Amazon is a company that takes on public service procurement contracts. Why should they be allowed to do this when they then block the democratic right of individuals to decide if they want to become unionized? So we caught him on the hop. Refused to sit down till he answered it, and he's given a statement which we're going to see if he abides by, which he will look at Amazon's public procurement contracts with a view to see what can be done, and also the fact we're in this process of recognition where they've blocked it using their tactics. So in the background, the GMB are trying to get things going, but on the bigger scale of international cooperation, we've also had again collaborations with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters coming across. They are now realizing Amazon is a problem in America. Although all Amazons have the same shared problems, in America it appears to be quite worse and bad for them. And we feel with these big unions that are out there that this year, if we can get our coordinations working well, then we think that we will then look to cause problems. But then the other part I want to mention here is that we have a branch that's been created for the Amazon Workers branch, and we're looking to affiliate with other organizations as part of this branch's development, not just for supporting our colleagues across the Amazon network, but as a hub where we can hopefully get things moving with other organizations like the trade councils. I met some climate activists who are part of the GMB. We'd like to think we could affiliate organizations into that. So we have quite a good spectrum of bodies within our Amazon Workers branch. I've been speaking to trade council members here in Coventry and also further afield, and I understand the dynamics of this. So what we're looking to do is that for our branch, we want to make people feel like they're welcome in the branch, establish links across Europe and the world, let them know that the branch is there. And part of the process of going forward is that we can attack them both on workers' rights and also, more importantly, on their credentials for the environment, because we take it for granted if you don't really follow what goes on with their environmental issues, it does impact upon us greatly across different parts of our lives. And we think Amazon need to be taken to task. So I hope I've given you a bit of insight because I'm minded of the time and I don't want to monopolize it. But for myself going forward, this is another great year. And what I will finish on is that things have gone at such a hectic pace from 2022. A major escalation occurred at that point, and from 50 ad hoc members at the peak, we were up to 1,100 members. We're holding steady at 1,000 members, and we're looking to then to build that, but also our workers are starting to gain an understanding or express an understanding that the bigger picture is how Amazon does exploit everything in its path with scant regard for any consequences other than the profit margin. And it's surprising to know, I'll share it with you, that a lot of the workers, although they're from different nationalities, they too are concerned about how the environment is exploited by Amazon. We see that in the working practices. And I feel that if we can galvanize in our branch, we can help support going forward with involvement with activist groups. So I'm kind of here to put the word out, get ourselves recognised, and also form links that were started from last year. We visit these links and move forward with a purpose with people that we meet along the way. So I hope I've given you a bit of insight there. I don't want to go into statistics and figures, but yes, without the GMB's help to start with, we wouldn't have achieved anything that we've achieved. We made Amazon back down because the weight of the numbers has swayed their mindset, although it's small. And as of today, I noticed on the news channel, it was put on French 24 News, I believe, they've been fined for the process of using cameras in an intrusive manner to get it's surveillance. We know it's surveillance, they spy on us. And they've used that information without our consent for getting data to build robots. So Amazon were caught out today on that. But there's lots of other things we think they need to be exposed on. So the use of using the media is a great tool because Amazon is adverse to any bad publicity and they will backtrack tremendously if they're cornered because they do feel that they need to keep this squeaky clean image that when you look beneath the veneer, it's not that squeaky clean at all. So I'm here today to get a bit more understanding of the Green Party. And I'll finish quickly on this one. I met a lady some time ago. I think she's based down Lund South. She's turned out to be a green credential person, as I can't remember her name, unfortunately, but I have it in my book. We were talking about meeting up at some point, and from meeting Robert today, I think I'll go back and get that on the way so we can go down there and talk to one of the Labour MPs. I think she's from Richmond, who was looking at us talking because the issue we like to join up and understand better is what goes on with Amazon in the environmental process. So that's my say. I hope I've given you a bit of insight and understanding.
Amazing. Thanks, Garfield. That was incredible. And you're doing God's work there. And like you say, it's unbelievable what you've achieved in the last year. And even just the potential, like the political impact, and especially with the prospect of a Labour government, for you to just show the public that Amazon isn't insurmountable. Like, I think a lot of people have it in their heads that even a government couldn't take on Amazon, and yet a few hundred workers can. So it's just so good to see. And yeah, I just hope you go from strength to strength. And yeah, definitely the petition that you mentioned, I'm sure people here would be keen to sign it, especially interested in your the environmental perspective that you're bringing to the dispute and the joint exploitation of workers and the environment that Amazon clearly delivers. So yeah, thank you so much. We'll come to questions, but James, I'll hand over to you now to talk about the global Make Amazon Pay campaign and your work with Progressive International.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to be building really on what Garfield said. So, bit of background. The Progressive International, who I work for, is a global network of political parties, trade unions, social movements, peasants' organisations, campaign groups, that sort of thing, all over the world. Some in the global north, mainly in the global south. And we launched in 2020. And we were looking around to see what do we think is a great campaign, a great target of an organization that operates across countries, across different issues, where normally it's exploitation that it does in all these different types of ways. It can hide behind the fact that the people that are its victims can't talk to each other. They're separated by issue, they're separated by language, they're separated by geography. And so we fixed on Amazon, and together with Uni Global Union, which itself is a federation of trade unions, including GMB and Unite in the UK, formed the Make Amazon Pay coalition in 2020 and started with a first day of action on Black Friday. And exactly as Garfield was saying, Amazon is sensitive to the medium because of its scale. we can get outsized media attention to it. So first of all, we ran a global day of action on Black Friday, and the reason for picking Black Friday, it was because of the media, because especially in the US, it's wall to wall dumb coverage of Black Friday sales, and news coverage. And so you're almost guaranteed to get a couple of minutes on the news if you can give them some alternative story, because they have all this space to fill. So we brought together, to begin with, 50 organizations in the coalition, trade unions working throughout Amazon's supply chain. You know, the majority of Amazon's workers, Amazon don't say are their workers. They're workers in their supply chain. They're outsourced. They're producing their products. But also with groups that are focused on tax justice. We know that Amazon pays as little as humanly possible in tax, gets big tax rebates from the states, and is terrible, as Garfield was saying, on the climate. It does a huge amount of greenwashing. In 2019, to great fanfare, Jeff Bezos announced that Amazon would have this plan for decarbonizing by 2040. And they only did that because they're under pressure from their own workers. They weren't doing it out of benevolence. They're doing it because a group called Amazon Employees for Climate Justice, who are mainly white collar workers in the West Coast of the US, lots of the tech workers, that sort of thing. They started mobilizing. And so in response, the company came out and this decent sounding thing, we're going to decarbonize Amazon, one of the world's biggest companies, huge global supply chain, by 2040. And since they came out with that, their emissions have gone up more than 40%. And they aren't even counting their full emissions, because unlike the other big online retailers in the US, in their carbon accounting, they only count Amazon branded things that are bought from Amazon. So if something, if you're buying this mouse from Amazon and it says Philips on it, it's gone through the Amazon process, but it doesn't count in their emissions. And they don't count, as Garfield was saying, if they destroy, if they incinerate thousands of these, that won't be included in their own environmental calculation. So we want to put that right at the forefront and unite these different struggles together with one opponent. And once you start doing that, you see that it isn't that the similarities between how the company operates on very different things. It's clear it has one policy, which is to squeeze as much as it can, from taxpayers, squeeze as much as it can from suppliers, squeeze as much as it can from the environment, squeeze as much as it can from different workers, outsource workers where it can, not increase wages with inflation, not allow union representation, because they know that with union representation, when people are organizing for themselves, they are more powerful. And there's also another element which links into the speaker you're going to hear from afterwards, which is Amazon's also complicit in Israel's crimes against the Palestinians. Because Amazon provides web services and cloud computing services to the IDF for the monitoring of Palestinians and for its murderous campaign in Gaza. So once you drill down into the full iceberg that is Amazon, we see a little bit above the surface, and then beneath the surface, there's this huge empire of abuse. So this campaign has been growing year on year, and it was amazing to hear what Garfield's experience was of our first Make Amazon Pay summit that we had in Manchester at the end of October, that had legislators, members of parliament from countries around the world, Amazon workers from around the world, trade unions, activist groups coming together to plan the next year, to plan how we are going to take on this company in a whole range of ways. And it's getting bigger and bigger. The year before last, 2022, we had our biggest yet global day of action. There were coordinated strikes in 30 countries, 135 actions, walkouts, blockades, and so on. And then, but this year, there were 250 strikes and actions, walkouts, warehouses. Like most of Spain's warehouses were on action simultaneously. The workers in Spain, in Britain, in the US, in France, in Germany taking action together. Garment workers in Bangladesh taking action at the same time. Protests at Amazon's regional headquarters in South Africa, and so on and so forth. And I think just I'll end on this, and why I think it's important to get involved with these campaigns which unite the various progressive forces around the world that we are going to need to be able to confront the concentrated power of the multinationals, because it's their concentrated power which is driving down pay and living conditions for workers all over the world, and it's wrecking the planet. And I hope that through coming together with these concrete opponents, that we can build the power that we need to overcome them and build a different world. I'll stop. So I probably ran over a little bit there.
No, Graham, James, thank you very much. Again, incredible to hear about. And yeah, long way to continue to grow. I can see that Saorsa's joined, so we're only going to have like 5 minutes here for questions for James and Garfield. Sorry, that's a bit shorter than planned. But does anyone have any questions? Feel free, put it in the chat or stick your hand up. Roy, go ahead.
Yeah, Roy Sanderson, Rugby Green Party member. Rugby's just up the road down the road from Coventry. And as a member of Unite Community in Coventry Watch Unite Community, and a member of Coventry Trades Council, we've been very active in support of the strike in Coventry, many, including promotion of the strike to other people naturally as well, but also donations. It's really, really important that donations are sent to the workers through the GMB to continue their strike. Garfield has only mentioned a fraction of what he could have mentioned today, but yeah. And for example, the position of how many ethnicities are within the Coventry site itself. It's incredible, and the way the local branch, which supported GMB, have been able to get leaflets and communicate with workers on the floor, and it's so important. It's a textbook. The GMB and the workers in Coventry, they have been taking mass pickets. Summit that was dead a couple of years ago, but has been a success in Coventry. It showed that when workers are strong, the bosses will back down, and so will the police. It's important the strike is spread, and that's why you need to go back. Everybody here needs to go back to the branch and get support for the workers in Coventry and the developing strikes that will take place. Garfield and Darren and others in Coventry, you just have to applaud what they've done, and Garfield maybe want to say what we can do nationally to support Coventry.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, to be honest, I was just responding to someone in the chat. Well, one of the things we have, which is open to organisations and individuals, we have a couple of WhatsApp groups where people can come in and get to find things out. We also have the Union Global group we set up from Manchester, where the union individuals from other countries can feed things in there and we talk. The branch is a new thing, and we're hoping that once it's up and running, that will be a focal point of contact as an information hub, but also going through the GMB, the Midlands region for the GMB. What you mentioned, I can't thank the Tom Man and Unite enough. They've been supporting us with donations for a period of probably over a year. And what I will add to that is that as a branch, we will get together with a view to make democratic decisions to send our members to other parts of Europe to get feedback. Now, I know the GMB do support us, but this is a rank and file movement, and there are times when we as a branch will make these decisions without recourse to the GMB. if the members say this is appropriate. So any money coming in, it's allowed us to do things already. We're preparing that, we're covering the cost when people come to training as reps, because it may be the fact it's their day at work and we don't want members out of pocket. So we're using that fund to make sure they're not losing their pay. Also, when we've gone on other strikes further afield, again, the loss of pay, we try and make sure that our workers are covered there. And without that financial help and it's quite a big membership, perhaps one of the biggest in the areas, that's allowed us to have a degree of money. Also, the other thing I was going to say, that we too can also provide funds or support to other organisations. We've not yet got that agreed by the branch, but I'd like to think, from having had requests regarding Palestine, that the branch would be in a position to, if we give them the direction that this is a good cause, they will then say we have the support to help. So what goes around comes around. But yes, contacting into the WhatsApp groups, I can try and get you some links there. It's good to know that rugby's down the road, because I met one or two of your green colleagues elsewhere at other events I've been. So I think this evening shows already we're forging links, and we're starting to get known with other individuals. Well, I think I've only met you today, but probably most people know me than I would know them, because my face is out there and I see people in different parts of the country. So it's great that you're here, and definitely any questions put in the chat, I'll try and get back to them tonight to answer them, just to give you a bit more direction.
Super. Thank you, Garfield. Okay, we are a bit over time, so I'm going to go introduce Saorsa, who's here from Workers for a Free Palestine, and really kindly agreed to speak to us at fairly late notice. So thank you very much, Saorsa. Obviously, this is on the theme of international solidarity, and we couldn't not bring in the perspective from Palestine, and also the fact that the actions from this group have been so successful. We also wanted to make sure that there was a chance for a call out to be made for GPTU members to get involved and to find out how they could be part of that direct action as well. So yeah, Saorsa, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And yeah, really happy to be here. So as Robert said, my name is Saorsa. I'm an organizer with Workers for Free Palestine. So we've actually grown quite a lot. So my focus right now is mostly on our communications, how we talk about our actions and how we publicize them, as well as the action design itself, what we're trying to do, how we do it when we get there, and what the outcomes we want to achieve. So obviously there's a lot of people in the room today, so I'm sure people have different ideas about or questions about the group. So I'll try to do a broad summary of what we've done so far and our intentions going forward, and what we're really focused on, and the call that we're responding to, and then hopefully during the questions folks can be more specific about maybe specific points they're interested in. So yeah, I mean, Workers for Free Palestine actually came about really organically. I was involved in the second picket. The first picket itself, I think it was just a handful of friends who, I think various backgrounds, I think some trade union members, some activists, and I think they just thought, what if we did a picket in front of a factory? What if we got all our friends together? I believe the first picket they had over 150 people, and it was all done through one-to-one direct calling, and basically pulling people in, right, who were interested. Since then, obviously, it's grown a bit more. Our last action was in December, and that one actually was across 4 different sites across the country, and it was also done at the same time, I believe, as other locations around the world as well. So obviously, it's not just one group of people who are organizing these pickets across 4 different locations. We've really started to make sure that we can share our skills and our knowledge set, right, across the board, so that whether it's up north, whether it's in Brighton, whether it's in Wales, we have people on the ground who can actually also kind of take on those skills and organize themselves locally, right? We need to make sure that we are that we've been sustainable as well. So obviously we've got a couple of successful pickets under our belts, but it's not just about, you know, showing up, making loads of noise, getting some media attention and then leaving, right? Our overall goal, which is responding to the call of Palestinian trade unionists. So actually we work quite closely with workers in Palestine, which is a coalition of different trade unionists within Palestine. And they've made it very clear, right, that they want organizations, not just unions globally, to make sure that we are contributing to disrupting the Israeli arms trade, and you know, to do what we can in different capacities, right, to do that. So with Workers for Free Palestine, because we have quite a diverse range of backgrounds as well, you know, we also wanted to be quite thoughtful about how we can respond to that. So, you know, yes, we've had these successful pickets. We're also expanding the work that we're doing in terms of our own political education. So we have a working group dedicated to that, but also making sure that, you know, one, we are engaging with the local communities that we're going to, right? We're showing up early, sometimes it's residential, it's very disruptive, and that we're also making sure that we are creating relationships with workers as well, whether it's inside those factories, or, you know, any other locations that, you know, we might be interested in the future, and making sure that we're planting those seeds, right, so that we're not going in as an aggressor, but we're, you know, we're going in to you know, shine a light on something that might be happening in the area that they might not even know about. Something else that we're doing as well, as I mentioned, is making sure that we can share the skills and the skill sets that we've been learning, to make sure that other people can take on this work as well. So outside of the pickets, we're also really interested in this kind of idea of continued education, and also, you know, how we can actually make a difference in our workplace, right? I think most of our members are exploring, you know, how to support Palestine in all these different avenues. So because of the background of our members, right, some of them are trade unionists, and obviously all of us are workers, we also have a workers assembly that we've started to put together as well. So the next one will be on this, not December, January the 31st, Wednesday, I think 6:30 at Pelican House. So it's a space where, you know, whether you're in a union or whether you are in a sector where you want to get together with other people, it is a chance to learn, strategize, and really kind of think about what are the practical steps that we can take, right, as individuals, but also I think more importantly together in different you know, coalitions or unions, right, or groups. So with that being said, what we're focused on going forward then, I think, is to make sure that we have a sustainable process as well. As you can imagine, there's a lot of effort that needs to go into the planning and execution of a picket of, you know, 400 or 500 people. So, you know, the idea is not to just rinse and repeat those, right? You know, whatever action that we do next, we want to make sure that it's meaningful. It is also in line with what Palestinians, and especially the Palestinian trade unionists, actually, you know, want from their supporters across the world. And we also want to make sure that what we're doing is informed politically as well. So obviously we all came together to get a job done, which means then that, you know, we have a little bit catching up to do in terms of, you know, making sure that we're on the same page, right, and building that trust. But, you know, we all felt actually it was really important to do these blockades. So we are catching up now, as well as making sure that, you know, our politics are actually up to scratch, and that, you know, everything we're doing is strategic. Everything we're doing is for a longer term impact that we're trying to see, right? So our group, and I'm sure other organizations as well, is trying to not treat this, right, as a flash in the pan, and to make sure that we actually set up sustainable structures for ourselves. So you know, proper working groups that are ongoing, that are consistent, that can carry on this work, as well as, you know, making sure that we can bring other people into the fold as well. So for folks here, if you're interested in joining us, the workers' assemblies are definitely a great place to start. You can also come with us on our picket. The next one hasn't been decided yet. And you know, we do try to make those as accessible and safe as possible so that many people can attend. And yeah, and obviously we're always looking for more people to scheme and strategize with us as well, as we grow. So yeah, that's a little bit of a high level overview of what we do at Workers for Free Palestine. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
Amazing, thank you, Saorsa, and yeah, incredible work again. I have a couple of questions, but if anyone has any other questions, please stick your hand up. We've got about 5 minutes here. We can chuck a couple of questions at Saorsa. Okay, I will ask mine then. You really interested about you planting the seeds ahead of the actions with residents and with workers in particular. Are you doing that? Are you doing that like openly with workers, or are you trying to go through unions that are represented at the sites, or both, or how are you going about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to do it in multiple ways, and I think it depends as well on the location that we're going to, what they're producing, and also the general feel of the town, right, and how they feel about the factory being there. So, we do try to be quite conscious of all those factors before we rush in and do anything. So what we have done is we've gone out to communities where we haven't done a picket, or maybe where we have done a picket in the past, to engage them in conversation. And then at our last picket as well, we made sure, because it was in a very residential area, that at the same time that we did a lot of community engagement. So we had an entire team, which we could, because we grew so much. We had an entire team of people who were actually flyering to the local residents while we were picketing at the same time. So obviously that work needs to be done in between our pickets as well. So that is something that we want to do more of. It certainly wasn't, it didn't happen at the first picket, but something that we're building into more of, for sure. And we want to be thoughtful as well about who we're engaging with.
Well, thank you. Yeah, really interesting. Les Levido.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for your great work and your talk. I want to take up the key term disrupting the arms companies, which could be done in many ways. So I want to ask firstly, how can that, or is it already being done on the day and beyond the day of the action? And then more broadly, perhaps that those actions could help to highlight the complicity of many institutions, local authorities, universities, pension funds in those arms companies, because they have investments in what are called investment funds, which in turn have holdings in those companies. So how do you see that broader prospect where people could take action in their own organizations?
Yeah,
against
absolutely.
those investments?
Yeah, we certainly feel that those things are connected. And, when we do go to do a picket, in terms of communicating to the media why we're there, why we chose that location and what our purpose is, we always try to make clear, right, what the link is with that company, with the local area, as well as how that company might, as you mentioned, might be involved, or might be a company that pension funds, right, or other kind of investment vehicles, right, have relationships with. So those are all the things that we want to highlight. We're not we're not of the mind that stopping one factory or 4 factories even for one day, right, has a material impact necessarily to the overall production over a long period of time. But what we do feel is that we do balance that with the impact. If, say, for example, if we can get that story into the media, if we can say have tens of people doing outreach in the local community, also learning more about that community and learning more about that factory as well. And then also the opportunity to engage with the workers directly in a non-confrontational, open way, right? We feel that is also wins. And we also know that it's not going to take 1 picket or even 4 or even 10 to stop this, right? We know by experience and by history that it's years and decades. So it's, for us, it's the balance of having visibility showing people, right, that something is happening in their own backyard, and then also, to your point, making sure that we connect those dots, right, so that everyone gets more and more understanding of how embedded this machine actually is in our country.
Thanks.
Great, thanks. Sue?
Hello, Sue Castillan. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sue Castillan from Derby Unite Community. I'm the chair, and also Amber Valley Green Party. I wanted to ask quite a simple question, actually. What sites have you targeted, and what sites are you looking to target in the future? And then I was going to ask the question about workers within that industry. Is there a move to help them become unionised as well in those industries?
Mhm.
It'd be good to
Yeah.
know where the sites are, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share as much as I can. Obviously, there's a little bit of sensitivity around that, and you know, I wouldn't want to spoil any surprises for the next one. But yeah, I would say so far we focus mainly on the F-35 and F-15 fighter jet components. It's really tricky, as you can imagine, to find out exactly how much what is being produced, where it's being sent, and when and for what. So based on the research that not just our group is doing, but lots of people around the world are doing, we get updates, right, and kind of tidbits of information on what these factories might be producing. So previously we focused on BAE systems and specific components that go into these fighter jets. Obviously in terms of what we target next, again, we want to make sure that each action we do is meaningful based on the fact that it takes so much time in preparation. We want to make sure that people on the picket and people who witness it, right, learn more, right, about the site we're picketing. So it has to be quite a strategic decision. So obviously I think we want it to be bigger, we want to be more impactful. Something that we haven't done yet is looked at the other parts, right, of the supply chain, so like docks and shipping and things like that. But again, right, depending on the site, depending on the location, depending on the types of workers, it takes a different conversation. So it's, while we do have a longer medium-term view of bringing workers in, who either work at these factories, right, or the docks or something like that, obviously that is really helpful and impactful on blockades and direct action, as we know, that kind of level of collaboration. But we do know that that might be a longer term effort, but we do want to make sure that's a priority, because again, it's not about shaming the workers. It's about showing them and then providing hopefully an alternative, right, to what they're doing as well.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And then there's a question from Tom, and also in the chat, whether there are any organisers in Manchester that you might be able to connect ECHO with. If you want to take, but Tom, go ahead.
Yeah. What sort of reactions do you get from the workers at these places?
Yeah, it's a big range. Sometimes they're very receptive. So we have specific people on the pickets who are worker liaisons, whose role it is to chat to them and make sure. It does get a bit antagonistic with cars, in our experience. When people are inside a vehicle, they see 400 people blocking the way, they still feel like it's appropriate for them to accelerate into that. So that has happened quite frequently. Is obviously something that we're really trying hard to de-escalate and prevent. But I will say that we're also through the practice of going on these pickets and engaging with workers, we're also just getting better at de-escalation, and also engaging them in a way, right, that is not confrontational. So yeah, it's a real range and mix of responses, and we're getting better at the more negative responses that we have, but it's to be expected.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and in terms of Manchester, yeah, we certainly have comrades in Manchester. So I can definitely try to connect you. If you message me your number or email or something, I can get to that. If you private message me.
Brill, thank you. And then I'm afraid this is only time for the last question. So Ruth, go ahead. You're on mute.
You're picketing, you said about the drivers. Do you get some drivers who hoot and support?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Lovely. Actually, Garfield, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just having a bit of a problem getting my hand up, but I will concur
Okay, go
what you
on.
said about the mentality. We've encountered that ourselves. People actually attempt to drive at you. They break their neck to get into work. I've actually seen a police officer nearly get knocked down, and he's more concerned about telling us to get out of the way as opposed to sort out the mad driver. Always make sure you got your viz on. Don't take unnecessary risks with them. Always keep one eye open for the drivers. And what you're doing is to be commended. And I think once people understand that, they'll be less confrontational, because I think most of them are scared that you're trying to put them out of their job, and it's
Exactly.
just to make them understand what's going on. So I do like what you said there, and it's been very informative.
Awesome. Thanks, Garf.
Brilliant. And yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. So I really appreciate you coming along. That was so interesting, and really glad that we got to hear about everything that you're doing, and hopefully people who are here can give support for the next actions.
Please
So
do.
yeah, thank you. Okay, we've only got a bit of time left, but I want to bring in Stuart, who's here from the Climate Justice Coalition and is organising the We Make Tomorrow conference in London, which is happening this weekend. So Stuart, come on in.
Nice one, mate. And yeah, absolute huge respect, Saorsa and Garfield, James as well. Everybody's spoken so far for all the important work that's going on. Yeah, my name's Stuart Melvin. I'm the trade union coordinator at the Climate Justice Coalition, which came out of the COP26 protest back in 2021. I'll keep this really brief because I know we're pushing time now, but I'll drop a link in the chat box and stuff as well. But basically, we're organising our second We Make Tomorrow conference. These are conferences of trade unionists looking at obviously the climate emergency and climate justice, specifically from a trade unionist and workers angle. We ran one in May last year in Manchester with close to 200 trade unionists from across the region, across the country as well. Garfield was one of our speakers. Thank you again for that, Garfield. This Sunday, we're doing a conference in London. So it's an all-day conference. It's Sunday because it was originally in November, or Saturday, November. We moved it specifically to allow for a free Palestine, free Gaza demonstration. So it's taking place this Sunday. We do have a few remaining tickets. So if people do want to come, we're pretty close to full, but there's probably 10, 15 tickets left. So if people do want to come along and haven't got one yet, I'll pop them in the chat box. We're delighted to be joined by speakers like Sarah Woolley, General Secretary of the Bakers Union, John Maloney, Assistant General Secretary of PCS, climate justice academics as well, Sam Gurney from London and South East Region TUC. We've also got international speakers, Luke Espiritu from the Philippines, and then an absolute ton of rank and file contributors. The majority of the conference is going to be discussion based, so it's in person, it's not online. The reason it's for that is mostly discussion based. We're running sessions running concurrently, focusing in turn on sort of care and public services and how these are or could be good green jobs and how we transition people into the work that's needed from the work that's not. This ties in, of course, to the arms trade as much as it does to the fossil fuel industry. Also looking at public transport and how we transition to a sort of free and fair and green public transport system. Also food production, again, how do we grow a sustainable and fair food production system across the country and across the world? And also, of course, looking at energy in buildings. And we've got rank and file speakers from these industries, as well as academics who focus on these subjects. And of course, obviously, trade union rank and file members coming together to talk about how we transition these sectors in a way that is fast, but is also fair and right for workers. And of course, we're seeing in Port Talbot right now exactly what happens when we leave right-wing governments and capitalists to sort this problem out, and it is the workers as well as the planet get screwed, as everybody has said so far on tonight's call. We'll also, towards the end of the day, do union-based breakouts. So if you want to meet other comrades in your union who are thinking about these issues and want to work on these issues, we'll come together at the end to talk about what we can do going forwards. And one of the things that we're hoping to come out of it, various things. One of them is increased solidarity with the struggle happening at GKN in Florence in Italy right now, who are raising money to buy out their factory because they're being laid off by an employer. They're running the longest running factory occupation in Italian history right now, so they need our support. We'll be raising support for them. but also we're looking to encourage people to set up their own local and regional versions of these, bringing together, as I say, trade union, rank and file and officials, as well as scientists and academics in more local and regional events to talk more about how we build the transition, also how we build education in our unions, whether that's official trade union education, workers' assemblies, peer-to-peer political education, lots of other things as well. So I'll pop a link in the chat box. Love to see anyone there who can make it. As I say, we've got about 10 or 15 tickets left, and feel free to share that on. Thanks for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Stuart. That will be a brilliant conference. So yeah, thank you for all the work in organising it. And Green Party Trade Union Group is going to have a stall there, I hope, as well. I know Peter is hoping to be there, and Matthew, who's the Trade Union Liaison Officer on the Green Party Executive, will be there. Yeah, so if anyone else is going, look out for fellow GPTU people there. Okay. Last thing I wanted to do was to just very quickly give a shout out for our AGM, which is happening on the 27th of February. We'll also be electing a new committee ahead of that. Nominations for that open tomorrow. And then there'll be a few weeks to nominate yourself, and then voting will take place. There's the full committee positions, so chair, treasurer, secretary, membership secretary, policy and events officer, and what have we got? Media officer as well. So if you're interested at all in getting more involved with GBTU, now would be a great time, because there's a lot more that we could be doing with the capacity. It's been a difficult year for like committees capacity, and there are things that we've got off the ground. So we've got our first members network. For those of you who are in Unite, there's already been a couple of meetings of that network to bring Green Party members who are in Unite together and keep them in touch with each other and organising together. We've also had the first meeting of our of regional trade union liaison officers. So we've been supporting the Green Party leadership with more trade union engagement at senior levels, but we also want to see that engagement happening at local levels, in local parties and regional Green parties. So we want to get more trade union liaison officers elected. We want to give them more guidance on how to do their role, how to reach out to people, how they can offer practical solidarity in their area. So we're starting to do that work, but all of it depends on the amount of capacity that we can give towards it as a committee. So if you're interested, please do look into it. I've just put the link in the chat, and get in touch with me if you've got any questions at all. So yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. Massive, massive thank you to James, to Garfield, and to Saorsa for their time, and to Stuart. Really, really appreciate all the contributions this evening. And I've seen the request in the chat to try and send out materials on that to members. So I'll try and get something together with all of the links and with how people can get involved to support each of those things. But incredibly inspiring work from everyone, and really, really appreciate it. And it's nice to have that international perspective at one of our events. So thanks again. Cheerio, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Garfield. Bye-bye now.
Let's see what's going on here in the chat. Need to jump to another meeting. Let people up there. Yeah, I should be chatting. Okay.